Don't touch me. Landon's voice cracked, his palm bleeding where the glass had cut through. Naomi froze, her own tears catching the light. I wasn't trying to break your walls, Landon. I was trying to find you inside them. The Pacific Northwest rain fell in long, quiet sheets over the city. A faint gray mist blurred the skyline, turning every window into a mirror. From the top floor of the Pierce Innovations Tower, Landon Pierce stood alone, as he always did, watching the storm crawl over Lake Union like it was stalking him. His reflection stared back from the glass wall, tall, controlled, unyielding. The world called him the genius who built the future. But if you looked closely enough beneath the suit, beneath the reputation, you'd see the truth, a man who hadn't let another human being touch him in 15 years. Not a handshake. Not a hug. Not even a passing brush in a crowd. Landon had built a world that made that possible. Private jets, sanitized corridors, voice-activated doors, robotic assistants, and employees who knew to stay 3 feet away at all times. Touch had become his greatest fear and his most expensive luxury. And yet, the emptiness had grown unbearable. He didn't remember the last time he'd heard laughter in this house. Or the last time his own heart had done anything but beat mechanically inside his ribs. He turned away from the window as his assistant, Maya, appeared on the intercom screen. "Sir, the art conservator you approved from Charlotte," she just landed. "Her name's Naomi Carter." Landon's voice was clipped. "She's early. She said she wanted to make the most of her time here." He hesitated. "Fine. Let her in. But remind her of the boundaries." Maya nodded gently. Everyone knew what boundaries meant. 1 week earlier, Naomi Carter pressed her palm against the doorway of her small art studio, staring at the chaos inside. Canvases leaned against the walls, half-finished paintings dripped with life and color, but business had been slow. Art therapy wasn't exactly a booming industry in her neighborhood. But to Naomi, it wasn't about the money. It was about helping people feel again. When her phone buzzed with an unknown number, she almost ignored it, until she heard the voice. "Ms. Carter, this is Pierce Innovations in Seattle. Mr. Landon Pierce would like to commission you for a private art restoration project. You come highly recommended." Her paintbrush slipped from her hand. Landon Pierce. The billionaire. Yes. He requires someone skilled in emotional preservation. The piece belonged to his late mother. Naomi frowned. "And he wants me?" "Yes. You'll be compensated generously." Money wasn't what made her say yes. It was the word mother. Something about restoring a piece tied to love and loss felt right. She'd spent so long helping others reconnect with their pain, maybe this time, she'd heal a part of her own. Naomi's car wound through the tall evergreens as the gates to Pierce Manor opened silently before her. The mansion wasn't ostentatious, not like she expected. It was glass, steel, and silence. The kind of home built for someone who preferred reflection to company. The driverless car stopped before the grand entrance. A security voice greeted her. "Ms. Carter, please sanitize your hands before entering. Step back for retinal scan." Naomi's brows rose. Wow. Even my grandma wasn't this cautious during flu season. The scanner beeped approvingly. "Welcome, Ms. Carter." Inside, the house was sterile. Not cold, just untouched. Not a single fingerprint anywhere. Even the air smelled filtered, processed. And then she saw him. Landon Pierce stood by the stairwell, hands tucked into his pockets, his presence commanding but careful. He didn't move toward her, didn't extend a hand, just nodded once. "Ms. Carter." His voice was low, precise. "You're here earlier than scheduled." Naomi smiled warmly. "I was excited to get started. I hope that's not a problem." "No," he said. "But there are protocols. I don't shake hands." Naomi blinked. "Okay, no problem." She tried to read him, but he was unreadable, a fortress behind glass. He gestured toward a covered canvas. "This is the piece. My mother painted it when I was a child. It was damaged years ago. I want it restored exactly as it was, no improvisation." Naomi stepped closer to the painting. Even beneath the drape, she could feel the energy radiating from it, something deeply personal. She could tell this wasn't just a project. It was a ghost. Understood, she said softly. Art has memory, Mr. Pierce. It remembers how it was loved. For the first time, something flickered behind his eyes. Not warmth exactly, but recognition. Dinner will be served in 2 hours, he said, stepping back. The staff will bring you to your quarters. Do not attempt to enter restricted rooms. Of course. Naomi smiled faintly. Boundaries. Got it. As she followed the butler down the long glass corridor, her footsteps echoed, the only sound in a mansion that felt like it hadn't heard a heartbeat in years. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, two souls unknowingly moved toward collision. Later that night, Naomi unpacked her tools and stared at the covered painting again. She couldn't explain it, but something in the air, in him, felt like a story half told. She thought about his eyes when she mentioned love. For a second, they'd softened, then gone hard again. He's lonely, she whispered to herself. So lonely he built a world that won't touch him. And then she wondered, what kind of pain makes someone afraid to be touched? That's when the reflection question appears, soft but haunting. If someone told you they hadn't been touched in 15 years, not even a hug, would you think they were broken? Or just protecting themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you'd feel in that moment. As Naomi fell asleep in the guest suite overlooking the rain, somewhere across the mansion, Landon sat alone in his mother's old study, watching the security camera feed of Naomi setting up her brushes. He didn't understand why he couldn't look away. For the first time in 15 years, the silence of his world felt different, not comforting, not safe, but alive. The sun was a faint suggestion behind clouds, light filtering like milk through gray glass. Naomi Carter stood in the main gallery, sleeves rolled up, hands steady as she began unwrapping the canvas Landon had kept locked away for years. The painting was breathtaking, a woman's face, caught between sorrow and peace. The brushstrokes were elegant, old but alive. Naomi could feel it. This wasn't just a mother's portrait. It was a confession. She turned as she heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. Landon stood in the doorway. He wasn't dressed like a billionaire today, just jeans, a plain charcoal sweater, and bare feet on the marble floor. Somehow, that made him look even more unreachable. You start early, he said. I like to work while the world's quiet, Naomi replied, smiling faintly. Before all the noise tells me what to think. Landon's gaze lingered on her hands, the way her fingers traced the edge of the frame. He swallowed, his throat tightening. You're comfortable touching something that fragile. She glanced up at him. It's just paint and canvas, Mr. Pierce. He hesitated. Not to me. Naomi's tone softened. Then I'll treat it like it matters. He looked away quickly, but she caught the flicker in his jaw, a tremor of something that wasn't fear but memory. Hours passed in silence. Naomi hummed while she worked, a soft gospel tune her grandmother used to sing in the kitchen. Landon sat behind her, pretending to review numbers on his tablet, but his eyes betrayed him. He was watching her. The way she moved. The way she didn't flinch from stillness. Finally, Naomi spoke without turning around. You always watch people like that? Landon blinked. Like what? Like you're studying a language you forgot how to speak. He froze. The brush slipped in her hand, streaking a thin line across the canvas. She cursed softly, grabbed a cloth, and reached for the solvent bottle. Landon moved instinctively. Stop, don't. Their hands almost met. His body jolted backward like he'd touched a live wire. The solvent bottle hit the floor, rolling. Naomi stared at him. What just happened? Landon's breath came shallow. His chest rose, fell, like he was fighting a storm inside him. I told you. I don't like. Touch, she finished for him. I remember. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them vibrated with something raw, not anger, not shame, just truth. Naomi lowered her voice. What did someone do to you that made you afraid of something so human? He looked away sharply. That's none of your business. Maybe not, she said softly. But maybe it's the reason your mother's painting cracked where it did. He turned back to her, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? Naomi stepped closer to the canvas, pointing gently. See this split along her shoulder? That's stress over time, temperature, pressure, neglect. Art breaks exactly where love is missing. Landon's throat tightened. His mother used to say that, in her own way. Even walls crack if you stop loving what's inside them. He stepped back until his shoulders hit the glass wall behind him. You should stick to paint, Ms. Carter. Naomi sighed. And you should stop pretending you're made of steel, Mr. Pierce. Nobody is. Her words hung in the air like smoke. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, but he couldn't. Because for the first time in 15 years, he wanted to reach out. Naomi was packing her brushes when the security lights flickered. Power blip. The glass hallway dimmed to gold, catching their reflections like twin ghosts. Landon appeared again, his voice softer this time. You did good work today. Naomi smiled. You don't sound convinced. I don't compliment easily. I can tell. A faint smile ghosted across his lips. You're different. I get that a lot, she said. Usually right before people decide whether to run or open up. He didn't reply, just looked at her, really looked. The kind of look that feels like a question you don't want to answer. Naomi shifted her bag over her shoulder. You know, Mr. Pierce, everyone thinks being untouchable makes them safe. But sometimes, it just means you're lonely with nicer furniture. Her words hit him like static, sharp, then warm. As she started walking toward the exit, he said quietly, Naomi. She turned. He didn't move closer, but his voice broke the silence. 15 years. That's how long it's been. Naomi's breath caught. Since what? Since I let anyone touch me. The confession fell heavy between them. Not as a boast, not as shame, but as grief. Naomi's eyes softened. That must be exhausting. He laughed once, hollow. You get used to it. No, she said gently. You just stop remembering what real feels like. He couldn't sleep that night. He replayed the moment, her voice, her questions, the brush of her fingertips close to his hand. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar, want. If you've ever met someone who is too afraid to be loved, the kind of soul that hides behind success or silence, don't scroll past this story. Some people just need one person who refuses to give up on them. If you believe that kind of love still exists, prove it. Stay with me for what happens next. Would you risk getting close to someone who's terrified of being touched, or would you walk away to protect yourself? Leave your truth in the comments. There's no wrong answer, only honesty. That night, as rain whispered against the glass walls, Landon stood at his window again. He whispered to the dark, almost like a prayer. 15 years, he murmured. And now one look, and I can't breathe right. Far across the house, Naomi sat awake too, sketching the outline of the painting, but her pencil slipped, leaving a line that looked like a heartbeat. She stared at it, smiling softly. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel something she hadn't in years either. The air in the house felt different. Not colder, just heavier, like it carried secrets now. Naomi noticed it the moment she walked into the gallery. Landon wasn't there, but she could feel him. His energy always reached the room before he did. She rolled her sleeves and whispered, Okay, Mr. Pierce, what are you running from today? She turned back to the painting. The woman's eyes in it almost seemed to look back, as if asking Naomi to be patient. That was when Landon appeared behind her. Good morning, he said flatly. Naomi jumped a little. You're quiet for a man with all this security. He didn't respond with humor. I need a progress report. How long until it's finished? Naomi studied him, eyes red, jaw tight. He hadn't slept. It'll take as long as it takes. Art doesn't heal on a deadline. He frowned. Everything has a schedule, Ms. Carter. Even pain. She put down her brush. You really believe that? That you can plan your way out of what hurt you? Landon's tone sharpened. This isn't therapy. You're here to fix a painting, not me. The words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they were cowardly. Naomi saw it, the fear behind the precision, the ache behind the arrogance. She exhaled slowly. You know, when I first met you, I thought the walls around you were made of glass. And now I realize it's steel. He turned away. Good. That means they're working. Naomi walked closer, her voice firm but gentle. You don't have to live like this. He looked at her over his shoulder. You think this is living? Naomi took a break at a small coffee shop near Pike Place Market. The rain hadn't let up, but the warmth inside smelled like espresso and cinnamon. She called her best friend, Renee, back in Charlotte. You sound tired, Renee said. What's going on out there? You find a secret tech cult or something? Naomi chuckled weakly. Worse. I found a man allergic to being human. Lord, what does that mean? He hasn't let anyone touch him in 15 years, Renee. He flinched when our hands almost met. He's brilliant, but broken. Girl, you can't fix that kind of man. You'll drown trying. Naomi sipped her latte, staring at the rain outside. I'm not trying to fix him. I just want to understand him. Renee sighed. And maybe you want to be the one who finally gets through to him. Naomi didn't answer. She didn't have to. Landon sat in his private office, watching an old video on his tablet, his mother, laughing while painting the very canvas Naomi was restoring. Her voice filled the quiet room. You can't lock out pain without locking out love, Landon. He closed the tablet quickly, pressing the heel of his hand to his forehead. Not now. Not her voice. A knock at the door startled him. It's open, he said automatically, then realized who it was. Naomi stood in the doorway, holding a cup of tea. You looked like someone who needed this. I don't drink tea. Then I'll just leave it here, she said, setting it on his desk. And for the record, I'm not trying to fix you. I'm just trying to make this place feel a little less like a museum. He almost smiled, almost. You shouldn't waste your kindness on people who can't return it. Naomi tilted her head. You ever think maybe that's what kindness is for? He didn't answer. His throat tightened. He wanted to say thank you, but gratitude was too close to vulnerability. So instead, he said the cruelest thing he could think of. You're wasting your time here, Ms. Carter. Once the painting's done, so is your purpose. Naomi's expression didn't change, but her voice did, quiet, trembling. You really think I don't see what you're doing? You're pushing me away because I make you feel something. He looked up sharply. You don't know me. I know loneliness when I see it. The silence that followed was electric, a war between his pride and her empathy. Finally, she turned and walked out. You can keep pretending, Mr. Pierce. But one day, your silence won't protect you. It'll bury you. Landon sat alone in the gallery, staring at the half-restored painting. The woman's face, his mother's, seemed to look through him. He whispered to the canvas, she doesn't understand. But deep down, he knew she did. Too well. Naomi lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His words replayed in her mind, not the sharp ones, but the trembling ones beneath them. She reached for her journal, writing quietly. He's not cold. He's scared. Every time I get close, it's like he's fighting a ghost. She closed her notebook and whispered into the dark, What happened to you, Landon Pierce? Have you ever loved someone who kept pushing you away, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to let you in? Drop your truth in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. When Naomi came down to the gallery again, she found the teacup she'd left untouched, but next to it was a small note, written in Landon's sharp handwriting. For the record, it wasn't a waste. She smiled, small but real. The walls hadn't fallen yet. But they'd cracked again, just enough for light to slip through. The storm came without warning. One moment, the Seattle sky was just brooding, a low hum of clouds over Lake Union, and the next, thunder split the horizon. The mansion's glass walls glowed white with lightning, and the power flickered. Naomi looked up from the half-finished painting, her brush pausing mid-air. Please tell me billionaires have backup generators. From across the gallery, Landon's voice came low and even. They do. Multiple. But sometimes storms win. Right on cue, the lights died. The hum of machines faded. For the first time since Naomi arrived, the house sounded human. She laughed softly in the dark. Well, look at that. The Great Pierce Manor finally feels alive. Landon's footsteps approached, measured, hesitant. He was close enough that she could feel his presence, but not close enough to touch. The emergency circuits should reset soon. Or, Naomi said, reaching for her phone flashlight, we could take this as a sign from the universe. Landon arched an eyebrow, though she couldn't see it. A sign. Yeah. She turned the light on, the glow catching his face. To stop hiding behind control for 5 minutes. He stared at her, the courage in her eyes, the warmth in her smile. The light painted her skin in soft gold. Something about it disarmed him completely. I'm not hiding, he murmured. Then what are you doing? He hesitated. Surviving. Naomi's voice softened. There's a difference, Landon. The rain hammered harder, wind howling through the pine trees outside. Naomi followed Landon toward the kitchen, her flashlight bobbing. The mansion, usually pristine and predictable, felt strangely intimate in the dark. No cold light, no robotic voices, just 2 people and the sound of the storm. Do you have candles? She asked. In the pantry. 3rd shelf. She found them, lighting one by one until the kitchen glowed in flickering amber. There, she said. See? Not everything needs a power switch. Landon watched the flame dance. Fire makes me uneasy. Because it's unpredictable? He nodded once. Naomi leaned against the counter. So is love. His eyes met hers. You always do that. Do what? Turn everything into something deeper. She smiled faintly. Occupational hazard. Comes with being human. He looked away, but she noticed the tremor in his hands. Do you ever miss it? She asked. Miss what? Touch. Connection. Simple things, like a handshake or a hug. His voice broke almost imperceptibly. Every day. They ended up sitting in the library, the only room that still felt warm. Naomi tucked her legs beneath her on the couch, candlelight flickering across her face. Landon sat opposite, pretending to focus on the fire. Your mother painted that portrait, right? She asked quietly. He nodded. Before she got sick. What was she like? A silence stretched. Then, softer than he meant to, he said, kind. Too kind for this world. She believed touch was sacred. She used to say it's how souls recognize each other. Naomi's eyes softened. Sounds like she'd like me. Landon allowed himself a small smile. She would have. The silence after that wasn't awkward. It was alive. Then thunder cracked again, close enough to rattle the windows. Naomi flinched, instinctively reaching out. Her fingers brushed his sleeve before she realized what she'd done. Landon froze. His breath caught. Every nerve in his body screamed run, but something stronger whispered stay. Naomi pulled back immediately. I'm sorry. I didn't. But he shook his head. Don't apologize. She studied him. You okay? He nodded slowly. I think yes. It was the smallest touch imaginable, fabric to fabric, but to him, it felt seismic. The world didn't collapse. The ghosts didn't come back. His chest didn't explode. Instead, he felt warmth. The storm had softened to a steady rhythm. Naomi yawned, curling into the couch corner. You ever realize storms force people to slow down? Like the universe hitting pause. Landon leaned back in his chair. I don't slow down. You just did. He huffed a small laugh, surprising even himself. You're relentless. And you're terrified, she said gently. But it's okay. Fear's not weakness, Landon. It's proof you still want to live. He stared at her, and for once, didn't look away. Naomi's voice was quiet now, half asleep. You don't have to talk about what happened. Not tonight. Just, don't shut the door, okay? I'll try, he whispered. Good. Her eyes fluttered closed. See? That wasn't so hard. Landon watched her drift off, the candlelight painting her face in gold and shadow. He hadn't realized how long he'd been holding his breath until then. For the first time in 15 years, another human being was sleeping in his space, breathing the same air, unafraid of him. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. She touched my sleeve tonight. I didn't flinch. I waited for the panic. It didn't come. I felt Safe. What is she doing to me? Do you believe two broken people can heal each other, or does healing have to come first, before love? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This storm is only beginning. The world felt washed clean. The sky was brighter than it had been in days, a soft blue stretching above the still surface of Lake Union. The scent of wet pine drifted in through the open windows. Naomi Carter stood barefoot in the gallery, hair pulled into a loose bun, her brush dancing over the canvas with renewed purpose. The storm had passed, but its echo lingered in her chest. She could still feel the warmth of Landon's sleeve against her fingertips from the night before, that fragile electric moment where fear didn't win. She smiled at the memory and whispered, "Progress." From behind her came a quiet voice. It was strange. Waking up knowing someone else was still in the house. Naomi turned. Landon Pierce leaned against the doorway, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen them. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said gently. He shook his head. "No. It was nice." She smiled. "Careful, you almost sound human." A faint laugh escaped him before he could stop it. "Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation." The moment lightened the air, but Naomi saw the heaviness still behind his eyes. She set her brush down. "You've been quiet since last night." He hesitated. "There's something I need to tell you, but I don't know where to start." "Then start anywhere," she said. "Sometimes the beginning isn't where the pain starts, just where it gets noticed." The fire crackled softly. Landon sat across from Naomi, a glass of untouched bourbon on the table between them. "My father," he began, voice low, "was a man who believed in perfection. Everything had a place, a purpose, a rule. Mistakes weren't tolerated, not even human ones." Naomi leaned forward, listening. "When my mother got sick, I was 15. I wanted to stay with her, but he sent me to boarding school. Said emotions made me weak. I came home one night early, found her collapsed on the floor." He swallowed hard. "She died in my arms. And his voice broke. He came in, saw me holding her, and said it was my fault. That if I hadn't touched her, she might have lived." Naomi's breath caught. "Landon." "I didn't touch anyone after that," he said, eyes glistening. "Not a single person. Because somewhere deep down, I believed him. That my touch killed what I loved." The silence after that was heavy, thick with grief too long buried. Naomi's eyes shimmered. "You've been carrying that lie for 15 years. He nodded once. "It's not a lie when it feels true." "Yes, it is," she whispered fiercely. "Because pain can't rewrite truth. You didn't kill her, Landon. You loved her. That's what she saw in her final moments. Not guilt. Love." He turned away, jaw trembling. "I don't know how to believe that." "Then let me help you." Naomi stood alone in the gallery, tears she hadn't realized she'd been holding finally slipping free. She understood him now, not as the billionaire everyone feared, but as a boy who'd been punished for loving too deeply. She whispered to herself, "No wonder he built walls. He thought love was lethal." Her phone buzzed, a message from Renee back in Charlotte. "How's Seattle? You still breathing?" Naomi smiled faintly through tears as she texted back. "Barely. But for the first time, I think he's starting to." He sat by the window, looking out at the city. His reflection looked different, not harder, but smaller, like the armor didn't quite fit anymore. Naomi knocked gently. "You okay?" He didn't answer right away. "You shouldn't have to carry my ghosts." "I'm not carrying them," she said softly. "I'm helping you name them. Once you name a ghost, it stops haunting you." He looked at her, eyes raw. "You make it sound easy." "It's not. But it's possible." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. No walls. No glass. Just two broken souls recognizing the same loneliness. Then, almost unconsciously, Landon reached forward. His hand hovered near hers, trembling, hesitant. Naomi didn't move. She just let her fingers rest open on her knee, patient. After several seconds, his fingertips brushed hers, the lightest, briefest contact. But it was enough to make his breath catch. He didn't pull away. Naomi smiled through tears. "See? The world didn't end." He whispered, voice shaking, maybe it's beginning. If you've ever carried guilt for something that wasn't your fault, if you've ever believed a lie so long it started to feel like truth, this story is for you. Don't leave it here. Stay. Let what happens next remind you that love isn't dangerous, it's medicine. Sometimes, subscribing to hope is the first brave thing we do. Naomi returned to her room, tears still drying on her cheeks. She looked out the window at the rain, whispering to herself, "He touched me." In another part of the house, Landon sat at his desk, staring at his hand like it wasn't his own, like it belonged to a man reborn. He opened his mother's old sketchbook and found a single note scribbled in the margin. "Touch is proof that love survived the fall." He closed the book, exhaling shakily. Maybe it did. Have you ever blamed yourself for something that wasn't truly your fault, and did forgiveness ever find you? Drop your truth in the comments. You never know who needs to hear it. That night, the storm outside was gone, but inside both hearts, something new had begun to rise, a fragile, terrifying, beautiful kind of peace. And for the first time, Landon didn't fear the dawn. The days began to change after that night. Not suddenly, but softly, like the world exhaled. Landon Pierce, the man who once treated human touch like poison, found himself waiting for footsteps in the hall. Naomi Carter had a way of filling the mansion with color, even when she wasn't painting. She left little things behind, a coffee cup half full, a pencil by the window, a humming sound in the kitchen that lingered like sunlight. He didn't tell her, but he'd begun to keep the door between their rooms open, just slightly, so he could hear the faint rhythm of her movements. Every sound reminded him he wasn't alone anymore. Naomi stood by the half-restored painting, sunlight pooling on the floor. She was barefoot again, her curls untamed, her playlist humming soft jazz through a small Bluetooth speaker. Landon leaned against the wall, watching her. "You hum when you paint," he said quietly. "I hum when I'm happy." His brow softened. "You're happy here?" She glanced at him. "Happier than I thought I'd be in a billionaire's haunted house." He smiled. "It's not haunted. Landon, you literally have motion sensors in the pantry." He chuckled, the sound catching even him by surprise. It was rusty, unpracticed, like laughter rediscovering itself. Naomi grinned. "There it is." "What?" "That sound. I've been waiting for it." He looked away, embarrassed. "I don't laugh much." "Yeah, I got that memo. But it looks good on you." Her tone was playful, but her eyes were warm. For the first time, he didn't retreat from that warmth. He let it reach him. The rain had given way to the soft hush of night. Naomi sat on the patio wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea. The city lights glittered below like constellations trapped on Earth. Landon stepped out quietly, hands in his pockets. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked without turning. "Never do." She gestured toward the chair beside her. "Then sit. Let's not sleep together." He blinked. "That's..." "Relax," she teased, laughing. "Not like that. Just sit and breathe for once." He sat. The night was still except for the sound of distant water lapping against the shore. Naomi's voice softened. "You know, when I first came here, I thought this house was made of glass so you could look out at the world. But now I think it's so the world can look in and see you hiding." He exhaled slowly. "Maybe I didn't want to be found." "Too bad," she said with a smile. "I found you anyway." Landon turned his head toward her. "You always talk like that?" "Like what?" "Like your words are trying to save people." Naomi's gaze drifted to the lights below. "When I was little, my mom used to tell me, if you have light, you share it, even if all you've got left is a flicker. Guess that stuck." He looked at her differently then, not as the woman restoring his painting, but as someone restoring him. Naomi rubbed her hands together, shivering slightly. Without thinking, Landon pulled his jacket from his shoulders and held it out to her. She blinked, surprised. "You sure?" He hesitated only a heartbeat before nodding. "Yeah. I think I'm ready." She took it carefully, their fingers brushing as she did. His breath hitched, but this time, no fear followed. Instead, there was warmth. Naomi smiled softly. "You're doing it." He frowned. "Doing what?" "Choosing connection." He stared at her, eyes searching hers. You make it sound simple. It is. It's everything after that that's complicated. They sat in silence for a while, the kind that doesn't need filling. Naomi played a record from Landon's mother's old collection. A low, bluesy tune filled the room. She swayed to it absently while cleaning her brushes, hips moving with soft rhythm. You dance when you work too, Landon said from the doorway. She laughed. You really do stand in doorways a lot, huh? He smiled faintly. It's safer here. Then come out of the doorway, Mr. Pierce. His hesitation lasted only a second. He stepped forward, stopping a few feet away. Naomi's eyes met his. You ever dance? He shook his head. No. Too much coordination required. Lucky for you, I lead. She reached out a hand, not forcefully, just open, waiting. He looked at it, his pulse racing. But something inside him, something small and brave, whispered you won't break. He placed his hand in hers. Naomi's smile lit the room more than any chandelier. See? Not so scary. He didn't reply. He just followed her slow steps, left, right sway, until they were close enough for him to feel her breath. Naomi's voice was a whisper. You can let go of the fear, Landon. His voice came back, trembling. I think I already am. For the first time, his hand didn't shake when it held hers. When the song ended, they stood there, hands still joined. Naomi's heart pounded, but she didn't pull away. You're allowed to want more than survival, Landon. He looked at her, really looked. I want you to stay. Naomi froze, the weight of his words hitting deeper than either expected. I mean, he stammered, until the painting's finished. She smiled faintly. Sure, Mr. Pierce. But they both knew that wasn't what he meant. Do you believe love begins with one grand moment, or in the quiet, ordinary seconds where someone finally feels safe? Share what you think below. The smallest moments can change everything. She took my hand today. I didn't flinch. She laughed, and I laughed too. I've spent 15 years building a world without touch, and she broke it open in seconds. If this is what love feels like, maybe I've been dead all this time. That night, Naomi fell asleep to the sound of soft rain on glass. Not a storm this time, just a promise. And somewhere down the hall, Landon lay awake, his heart finally learning how to beat for something other than survival. For the first time in 15 years, the mansion didn't echo with silence. It breathed. It lived. Naomi's laughter had become part of its rhythm, floating through hallways that had forgotten joy, spilling into rooms once sealed off by grief. Even the staff, those who'd tiptoed through years of tension, started smiling again. Landon Pierce didn't say it out loud, but everyone felt it. The house wasn't haunted anymore. Still, good things make fragile sounds before they break. Naomi stood before the completed painting, wiping the last trace of dust from the frame. The restoration was finished, colors alive again, cracks healed. The woman in the painting, Landon's mother, seemed to look right at them both. Naomi smiled softly. She's beautiful. Landon stood beside her, his hands resting calmly by his sides. No gloves, no distance. She'd like you. Naomi glanced at him. You've said that before. I meant it both times. Her heart fluttered. You know, I think she'd be proud of you. Landon's eyes flickered. For what? For letting someone in. He looked down, shy, almost boyish. You make that sound easy. Love usually is, she said. It's fear that complicates it. He smiled at her, a quiet warmth in his gaze that spoke 1,000 words he wasn't ready to say. Then the front door buzzer shattered the moment. Maya's voice over the intercom, Sir, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you might want to see this. Landon frowned. What is it? A news alert. It's, she hesitated, about you. And Ms. Carter. Naomi's stomach sank. What? Landon strode to the nearest console, pulling up a live feed. On the screen, tech billionaire Landon Pierce secretly living with mysterious art restorer. Exclusive photos inside Seattle mansion. Who is the woman behind the billionaire? Dozens of flashbulb images filled the screen. Naomi entering his gate, her reflection caught in his windows, a blurry shot of them standing near each other in the gallery. Naomi's breath hitched. Oh my God. He turned to her, voice cold, sharp, the voice she thought she'd melted away weeks ago. Did you tell anyone you were here? Her eyes widened. What? No. I would never. How else would they know? His tone was rising now, fear disguised as anger. My staff signs NDAs. My home is secure. Naomi's voice trembled. I didn't leak anything, Landon. You have to believe me. I can't afford to believe, he snapped. I built my life on privacy. On control. You think I can just control? Naomi cut in. You mean fear. You've built your life on fear. He froze. Naomi took a step forward, voice shaking but fierce. You finally let someone close, and now you're running again because it's easier than trusting that not everyone wants to hurt you. Stop, he whispered. No, she said. You can't keep punishing the world for what your father did. Don't you dare bring him into this. Landon's voice cracked like thunder. Naomi flinched. Silence. Then, his tone turned low, cold, deliberate. You should leave. Her breath caught. You don't mean that. I do, he said, jaw tight. The painting's finished. Your job's done. Naomi blinked back tears. You're scared. I'm protecting myself. She swallowed hard. No, Landon. You're destroying yourself. He turned away, unable to look at her, unable to watch her heartbreak in real time. Naomi's voice cracked. After everything, you still think love is the danger. He didn't answer. She stared at him, tears streaking her cheeks. You're not protecting your life. You're burying it. Then she walked away, slowly, silently, the sound of her heels fading down the corridor. Landon didn't move. He just stood there, every heartbeat louder than the last, every second colder. When the front door closed, it echoed through the house like a gunshot. The rain had returned, harder than before. The wind clawed at the windows as Landon sat in the dark, staring at the painting. His mother's eyes looked softer now, sadder. He whispered, You warned me, didn't you? You said love was touch. And I keep running from both. He pressed his palms against his face. I ruin everything good. Naomi sat on the couch, the city lights blurring through her tears. The news hadn't stopped replaying the story, headlines twisting her name, commenters speculating. She'd survived heartbreak before. But not like this. Her phone buzzed. Renee again. Girl, her friend said, you need to get on a plane. That man's lost in his own ghosts. Naomi whispered, I thought I could reach him. You did, Renee said softly. But he's gotta reach back. That's not your job anymore. Naomi stared at her reflection in the window, tired, heartbroken, but still strong. I can't hate him. You don't have to. But you do have to let him find his own light. The house was silent again. Back to what it had been before her, sterile, untouched. Landon walked through the halls like a shadow. He didn't turn on lights, didn't speak to staff. When he entered the gallery, he stopped. The painting. A small sticky note had been left at the bottom of the frame in Naomi's handwriting. Art remembers how it was loved. He read it again and again until the words blurred. Then, for the first time in years, he fell to his knees and sobbed. Have you ever pushed someone away, not because they hurt you, but because you were terrified they might be the one who could heal you? Share your truth in the comments. Someone might need to hear your story tonight. The rain hadn't stopped. It poured endlessly, like the sky was mourning something neither of them could fix. Landon sat in his office at Pierce Innovations, surrounded by walls of glass and silence. He hadn't slept. His team avoided his gaze, even his assistant, Maya, said little beyond necessary updates. He'd gone back to being what he'd always been, untouchable. But this time, it didn't feel like safety. It felt like punishment. The headlines had faded, but the echo of Naomi's voice hadn't. You're not protecting your life. You're burying it. He played that line in his mind like a song stuck on repeat. Each time, it cut a little deeper. Naomi sat cross-legged on her couch, sketchbook open on her lap. The pages were full of faces, some finished, some fractured, all painted in tones of longing. In the corner of one page, she'd drawn Landon's silhouette, half in shadow. Renee dropped by, bringing coffee and tough love. You've been quiet for 4 days, girl. You can't heal staring at his ghost. Naomi closed the sketchbook. He's not a ghost. Then what is he? Naomi sighed. A man who's never been loved without pain. I tried to show him it could feel different. But maybe he has to see that on his own. Renee sat beside her. Sometimes love isn't saving someone. It's stepping back so they can save themselves. Naomi nodded slowly, tears brimming but unshed. I just don't know how to stop caring. You don't have to stop, Renee said softly. Just stop waiting. Naomi smiled sadly. You sound like my grandma. Renee squeezed her hand. Then listen. The mansion was quiet again, but Landon couldn't stand the silence anymore. Everywhere he looked she was there, a brushstroke left behind, a mug she'd forgotten, a piece of laughter hiding in the walls. He walked into the gallery, the painting still illuminated by soft light. His mother's restored face seemed alive now, compassionate, like she was watching him with both pride and pity. He whispered, "You'd hate who I became." The air felt heavy, like it was waiting for him to finally tell the truth. He sank into the leather chair, staring at his hands. They didn't tremble anymore. But they also didn't hold anything. He picked up Naomi's note again. Art remembers how it was loved. And that's when it hit him. Maybe love remembered too. Naomi walked along the pier, the early fog wrapping around her like smoke. She loved mornings like this, quiet, alive, forgiving. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something in her gut whispered, "Do it." "Hello." Silence. Then, his voice. Soft. Breaking. "Naomi." Her chest tightened. "Landon." He took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry." She said nothing. The wind carried the sound of gulls between them. "I thought if I kept the world away, it couldn't hurt me," he said. "But you were right, I buried everything good with the pain." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I can't do this anymore," he said. "I can't live like I'm already dead." Her throat ached. "And what do you want from me, Landon?" He paused. "Nothing. I just wanted you to know, you were the first person I wanted to touch and not run." Naomi closed her eyes, fighting tears. "You didn't need to say that." "Yes, I did," he whispered. "Because I should have said it when you were still here." He drove aimlessly through Seattle's wet streets, wipers fighting the downpour. Every stoplight seemed to ask him the same question. Are you going to let fear win again? He gripped the steering wheel, whispering, "No more." The city blurred past, the rain turning into silver streaks on his windshield. For the first time in 15 years, he wasn't running away, he was running toward something. Naomi sat by the window, sketching absent-mindedly, when headlights swept across her living room. She froze. A car door shut. Footsteps. Then, a soft knock. Her heart thudded. She opened the door. Landon stood there, soaked to the bone, breathing hard, like he'd been fighting his own ghosts to get here. Naomi's breath caught. "Landon." He shook his head, rain dripping from his hair. "Don't say anything yet. Please." He took one trembling step forward, close enough for her to see the fear and hope warring in his eyes. "I pushed you away because I thought love was something I could control," he said. "But I was wrong. Love isn't control. It's surrender." Naomi's throat tightened. "Landon." He kept talking, voice raw. "You once said fear doesn't protect us, it buries us. You were right. I don't want to live buried anymore." She searched his face. "Why now?" "Because I realized something," he whispered. "You can't heal alone. You just forget what warmth feels like." And then slowly, deliberately, he lifted his hand, the same hand that hadn't touched another soul in 15 years, and reached for her cheek. Naomi didn't move. She just let him. His fingers trembled as they brushed her skin. No flinch. No panic. Just quiet, trembling wonder. Tears filled his eyes. "You're real." Naomi nodded, her own tears spilling freely. "So are you." He laughed softly through the tears, not the laugh of a billionaire, but the sound of a boy finally forgiven. "What does courage look like to you, walking away, or walking back when you're terrified you'll be hurt again. Share your truth below. This is where the healing starts. I touched her face tonight. 15 years, and my hands didn't shake. Maybe love isn't about being safe. Maybe it's about finding someone worth risking the pain for. The rain kept falling outside, but inside Naomi's apartment, two hearts finally found quiet, not because the storm had passed, but because they chose to stay in it together. The rain had become softer these days, more like a familiar song than a storm. The city had moved on from its headlines, but inside the glass walls of Pierce Manor, something far more permanent was happening: healing. Naomi Carter walked barefoot through the morning light, a mug of coffee warming her hands. The mansion no longer felt sterile. The rooms that once echoed were now alive, filled with music, laughter, and small human imperfections. A pair of sneakers by the door. A half-finished canvas leaning against the wall. And the sound of Landon humming off-key somewhere upstairs. It was messy. And beautiful. The painting of Landon's mother hung proudly where it belonged, restored, framed, radiant. Naomi had refused payment for it, saying, "Some things are priceless." Now, Landon stood before it, his hand resting lightly against the frame. No gloves. No hesitation. Just peace. "She'd like this," he said softly as Naomi entered. Naomi smiled. "She'd love it. And she'd love that you're not hiding anymore." He turned to her, eyes warm. "I'm not sure I know how to hide now. You kind of ruined that for me." She laughed, stepping closer. "Good. That was the plan." He looked at her for a long moment, the kind of look that says everything words can't. "You stayed," he said quietly. "I wasn't leaving," she replied. They walked through Pike Place Market together, blending into the weekend crowd. Landon wore a baseball cap and an easy grin, something no one in the city had seen on him before. Naomi carried a bouquet of sunflowers she'd insisted on buying from a street vendor. "First time I've seen you in public without flinching," she teased. Landon smirked. "First time I've wanted to be seen." "Look at you," she said playfully, bumping his shoulder. "A whole man now." He chuckled. "Don't push it. Still learning." Naomi smiled. "Learning looks good on you." They wandered by the water's edge, pausing as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks. The light hit the sound just right, golden, trembling, alive. Landon took a deep breath. "It's strange. I spent so long building a world where no one could touch me. But this," he gestured to the chaos of people, laughter, and noise. "This feels more like home than anything I've built." Naomi touched his arm gently. "Because it's real." They ate dinner on the terrace, candles flickering against the twilight. Naomi had cooked, badly in her own words, and Landon pretended not to notice how she'd burned the garlic bread. "This is awful," he said, laughing. "Then you're welcome," she replied, grinning. He leaned back in his chair, the sound of her laughter blending with the soft hum of the night. "You know," he said, "I used to think peace meant silence. And now I know it sounds like this." Naomi's eyes softened. "You really have changed." He nodded. "You taught me that love isn't something you earn or control. It's something you let happen." "Let happen," she repeated. "I like that." Landon smiled, standing. He walked over to her side of the table, kneeling slightly, eyes locked on hers. "I don't know what the future looks like," he said, "but I know I want to live it, with you." Naomi's breath caught. He reached out, not trembling, not afraid, and took her hand in his. And then softly, he leaned forward and kissed her. Not like a man claiming something, but like a man finally free enough to receive it. When he pulled away, tears shimmered in her eyes. "You sure you're ready for this?" He smiled. "I've been waiting 15 years to touch the world again. I'm starting with you." The sky cleared, stars emerging one by one. Naomi leaned against the railing, wrapped in Landon's jacket, watching the lights of Seattle below. Landon joined her, slipping his arm around her shoulders. The gesture was easy now, natural. "You ever think about what happens next?" she asked. "Every day," he said. "And for once, it doesn't scare me." Naomi smiled softly. "That's all healing is, Landon. When the fear stops feeling bigger than the hope." He looked at her, heart full. "I don't deserve you." Yes, she said gently, you do. Because you chose to be better. You chose love. If you believe love can heal even the deepest wounds, if you've ever watched someone fight their way back to life because another person refused to give up on them, don't let this be just a story you heard. Let it be one you carry. Stay. Subscribe not for views, but because maybe one day, someone you love will need this reminder too. Naomi stood before a new canvas. On it, she painted two figures beneath a rainstorm, their hands just barely touching. Above them, in soft script, she wrote, "Touch is proof that love survived the fall." Landon entered quietly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Looks familiar," he murmured. She smiled. "It's us." He kissed her temple. "I thought so." She leaned back into him. "Do you ever think about how it all started? One painting. One storm. One moment." Landon nodded. "One touch." They sat together on the dock behind the mansion, shoes off, feet dangling above the water. The sky blazed gold and pink, reflected in the still surface. Naomi rested her head on Landon's shoulder. "You know what's funny?" she asked. "What?" "The first time I saw you, you looked like a man allergic to the world." He laughed softly. "And now? Now you look like a man in love." He turned to her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That's because I am." And with the fading light casting halos around them, he kissed her again, slow, certain, endless. The man who hadn't let anyone touch him in 15 years had finally learned what it meant to be held. What's the one fear you'd face if it meant finding real love? The kind that heals, not hurts. Share it in the comments. Someone else's healing might start with your courage. When the world finally told the story of Landon Pierce and Naomi Carter, it wasn't about money or scandal. It was about two people who reminded everyone watching that even the most untouchable hearts can learn to love again. And somewhere between the storms and the silence, they both found what they'd been missing all along, not perfection. Just touch. Just love. Just home.
Thank you for staying with this story to the very end. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll not miss out on the next video.